What's up, Simonics, and welcome back to a new Build with Ionic tutorial. Today we're replicating the Deliveroo food UI because that's one of the many food applications that I found that looks really good with Ionic Angular. We're gonna get into a lot of custom directives, Parallax, images, header directives, CSS, custom components. Well, really, there's everything in this video. If you want to follow along, I really recommend you follow the link below to my blog, which has all the code for this tutorial, since we're gonna need a lot of code and I will sometimes bring in a few snippets because I guess the video will be quite long. If you haven't checked it out, also take a look at the Ionic Academy, my place to help you with everything Ionic so you can become a real Ionic pro. And for today, let's head into our Ionic food ordering application. Alrighty then, let's get started with the application. First of all, you're gonna need a new project and one additional page. Actually, we just need two pages, so the default one and the details page for this application. And we need two directives to transform the headers within our pages. So that's really everything you need today. One quick look at the application that we're gonna build. So this is the Deliveroo application that I found so far. We will especially take care of building these different slider sections right here based on some dummy data. We're gonna implement this little header change animation, not 100% with everything, but at least with a bit of this, so it will be quite nice. And then once we're inside one restaurant, we're gonna develop this header area. So we got this parallax image. We got this title, which changes into the top area and makes the whole bar actually white in the background. And this list of meals. And also this nice little flip between those sections. So you can actually click on those sections and automatically slide to them, or when you're scrolling the list, it will also change at some point. So that's what we're gonna do for today. You've set up your application in the meantime, hopefully. What we need as well is the app module, because we're gonna inject the HTTP client module so we can make a request to the dummy files that I've hosted. Once again, link below the video, you should definitely follow along. And once you're done with the app module, you can also open the app routing. It should now look like this. You should have a home page and you should have a details page. We're not getting into routing and showing different menus. Really, that's just super easy. You could just have like an ID here and then retrieve the right information for one restaurant. That's really not super interesting and not the topic of the Build with Ionic series. Now let's get into our shared directives module so we can prepare this. Both directives should be added to declarations, but they also need to be inside the array of exports so our other pages can import them. And before we forget about it, let's just quickly do this. On our home module, we're gonna add the shared directives module, and on the details page, there it already is. So those are the two places where we need our shared directives module. Now let me quickly show you the JSON that I've prepared. So we got a little JSON file for the home page. That's actually not the home page. That was the second one. That's the home page. We got different categories, just like we've seen within our Reflector app. We have the different categories up here. We have the featured section with two entries, and we have the highlights, which is this area with the big images. Then once we move into one one restaurant, we got basically everything in here: name, rating, ratings, image, distance, some text, some about text, and then the food split up in different categories. Once again, I just got those two files, but that should be enough for today to display our little application. What we need as well is the Ionic color generator. I had it open somewhere right here. I added a few colors in here and generated a little new snippet for our configuration. So once you insert the colors, you can grab this root and then you can put it into the theme variables as CSS. And I'm just gonna replace this. Once again, whenever you're not sure where I got that code from, follow along with the tutorial link below. So now I got a different primary color. I actually don't know if I think I changed the light color and the medium color as well. Okay, a lot of preparation, but we're not yet completely finished because I also wanted to include a custom font. And so I downloaded a file which I think was actually used. I'm not completely sure, but I think it was the Plex font. So you can download it from Google Fonts. I found it right here. It looked basically like the font used within a Deliveroo application, or perhaps I saw it in the source code. And then you can put it into your assets fonts folder. And I just used the normal font and the bold font. And then I've set them for the Ion font family right here, and also globally changed our Ion text color because in most places I found this slight gray color for the text, so that makes life a bit easier. We can then change it back to black whenever we need it. Great, with that in place, I think we can head over to our first page, which is the home page. Let's open everything, page, CSS, TypeScript, we're already done with the module. And maybe we can also do this now side by side with our application, either on the browser or on my device. Let's do it with a browser for now. And there we go. Okay, looks almost good. I could need a shortcut for that as well, but maybe in the future. So what I've added so far is a simple HTTP request to get our home JSON, which gives us the categories, highlights, and the features. That's basically all data we need right now, so we can go into our homepage. We will leave the header area for later. That's going to be a bit more complicated, so let's just get started with a few Ion slides. All of them are a tiny bit different, so we're going to need options for all of them. The first one will be the category slide options, and we're going to iterate Ion slide ng for let cat of categories. And maybe I should have put a lock in here. We can still do this. Okay, no, I don't see the lock. Great. There's my object. So categories consist always of an image and title. That was pretty easy. Okay, so for the categories, I just want to display an image. We could use Ion image, we could use image. Let's just go with an image for today, and let's use category image. We also need the category slide options. So if we take a look at the implementation, maybe we should really just have taken the application to the side here. If we take a look at this application and the categories on this page, we see that this is basically a free mode. So they are not locked. These are locked slides. They always lock in place. These are free slides. So for the category slide options, we're gonna say free mode true. We're also gonna have multiple in one view. So let's say slides per view 3.5. That's basically what we see right here. We got a little bit of offset before. We can add this in here as well. Slides offset before. Let's use 11. I think that's 11. And then we got a little bit of space between. Is this just called space between? I think so. Let's set this to 10. Let's hit save and let's check it out. I'm gonna close this and make it a bit smaller. And then we got our free mode first slides up there. That actually looks pretty good. They already had round borders, so that made life a bit easier. A little cheat in there maybe. Really, the preparation for this took so long. I took a very few shortcuts, and I hope you're fine with that. Next one should be highlight slide options. Those are the options which, no, not the options. the second slide right here. So we're gonna lock them in place. I think it's actually not too interesting. The setup is once again the same. And now for the highlight slide options, we're gonna use mostly the same values. Slides per view, as we can see, the slides just show a tiny bit of the next slide, a bit of space between, just like before. But now we also wanna say centered slides. And also loop, because if you check out the real application, you see that we can loop through them. And that's exactly what we can do now as well. We can go to both directions. We should actually see a little bit of the next slide already. We don't see a lot in here. Maybe I will open it on a device as well so we can take a look here. That's how it's looking right now on a device. Maybe we can fix this with a bit of margin. Why can't I loop through them? Did you not update yourself? Hello? Or did I just not assign them? No, I did. Maybe we can fix this from our CSS. Now, next part, if we check out the application again, is a little header. I want to just use an Ion text color, dark. Once inline should be fine, right? I usually use CSS, but sometimes, let's not talk about this today. Okay, and then we got the third one, Ion slide options. This time we call them featured slide options. Those are basically like the first one, I think. So Ion slide with a little link, because those should actually open our details page. Can we have a break? So of featured class featured slides, we're gonna give them a little bit advanced styling because that's gonna be necessary for that application. And then within them, we're gonna first put our image that was within the view. Maybe I really need both applications open, the original one and our application, but it should work like this. Oh, we haven't defined the featured slide options, but we will do this in a second. Of course, I can't scroll in here, but I can scroll here. So we got the image, and now just really boring the information. We got the text for the name, we got a star, we can use Ion icon and use our primary colors or secondary colors. We got the rating and ratings, everything's basically from the JSON, and then we got another icon, which makes everything now look like this. It doesn't really look like it should look. Did we set the font color, didn't we? Where's my font? Where's my dark background? Maybe, yeah. So if we just put it into Ion Slides, it's not working very well. The text will be behind the image, so we're gonna have to use custom classes to make this once again a flex layout. So let's head over to the home CSS. No, we still need the featured slide options, which will be pretty easy. Once again, free mode. We're going to use slides per view 1.2 just to show a little glimpse of the next one and a bit of space between them once again. So let's move over to our CSS file, because all of the Ion slides really need a lot of padding. We're going to need padding left and right, and we also need a bit margin to the top and bottom. That will give the whole UI already a lot better visuals. Really, you see what this change made to the page. If I comment this out, it really looks horrible, and you think like, this is never gonna work. And then you put in just 4 lines of CSS and everything's immediately looking better. Anyway, the important part here was also that this should go to the sides, or basically everything, and that's why we couldn't wrap the whole page with Ion padding. If we would do that, the slide would already stop at here and disappear behind a white border. So therefore we couldn't use a global padding on our page. Now for the featured slide, we need a bit more CSS. Featured slide, we're just gonna use display flex. We're gonna use the flex direction column as usually when we wanna format something below in those slides, which should already give a bit better view. Now we also want to align our content. No, we want to align the items, I think, to flex start. That should move them to the left side. Okay, almost good. But we also got this info block right here, which we will also style with flex. So basically we're just gonna copy this again and hope that everything works. And it looks already pretty good. The router link is obviously working. The loop for our slides is working. If we check it out on a real device, it's also working pretty nice so far. I don't know why loop isn't working on my device. That's the first time I notice it. But anyway, we got the free mode up here. We got the centered slides, and we got a nice UI for our featured section. I think that's a good start. So that means we can already move into our details page. We will do the header fun in the end, or would you like to do it now? I actually don't know. Would you like to? It's really a bit tricky. Maybe we are already on that page. Let's do it. Come on. Let's implement quickly our header height directive. So as we've seen in the original app, the top part of the header now fades out if we scroll it up, and the search bar becomes sticky, and there's also a little text above it. So you really have to look closely if you want to replicate animations like this, what is going on. As I said, we won't implement everything. We don't want to, or we might want to, but we're not going to do this filling here for the refresher. Would be something cool actually as well, but we will do this maybe sometime else. You just have to understand which block moves at which point to which direction. So where it is sticky, what's going on. And basically we got these two areas. We got the search bar area. We will not take care of this. That's just pretty boring. And we're gonna take care of this. I actually grabbed this image. I won't host it because it belongs to Deliveroo. Perhaps you can find it or just use some other image. So I've put that image right here. It's the delivery PNG, I think. Okay, to do so, we need to do a few things. First of all, let's move back into the homepage. On our homepage, we could do all of this within a header area, but the header is usually sticky already, and it makes it not the best place for this. As we've seen, everything basically scrolls with the content, so I thought it would be a better idea to also put all of this into the content. To give you a quick idea for the refresher, I just put this default Ionic refresher in here, and I think we don't really need this. I can do this maybe. I don't know if I can. Set timeout. Event target complete. And we're gonna do this after 2 seconds. So let's try if our refresher works. Yeah, I always forget about that. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it wasn't event target complete. Come on, that's not too hard to implement. I really don't want to look up. Yeah, complete. I really don't want to look up the Ionic documentation right now. Let's try once again. Okay, now it's not working again. Great. 1, 2, disappear, disappear. Great. That's working. So we got the refresher up there, but there's a bit more that we need to add. And especially, we're gonna wrap everything into 2 rows. The first one let's just call this class info row. Perhaps use not uppercase. I wouldn't recommend that for CSS classes. And we're gonna give this one the template reference hide header, because that's the row we're gonna hide in the end. The content of that row is actually pretty boring. We just use column size 2 for the image. Then we're going to use 8 of our spaces for the information like now, London, and a little arrow down. And towards the end, we got the person outline. So that should give us basically this UI. Actually, on a device, it looks a bit better, but it's also not in the right position. But no worries, we can fix that easily. The second row is the row with a search bar. This one will simply get the class sticky row because we're gonna make it sticky to the top. We don't need additional directives here, but what we need is an ion column of the size 10 and another column of the size 2. So there we go. In the column 10, we're gonna put our search bar, and we're gonna put something else in the end, but for now we're gonna leave it like it is. Now we see we got the refresher up there. Everything's just too far to the top. So let's move back to our ion content up here and change this. What we wanna do is we wanna use our directive now to scroll everything out. Right now, basically, we can't scroll. If you can't scroll on your page, simply pick one of the categories right here. I really don't mind which one, and just put it down here. So you got enough stuff on that page so you can actually scroll. As we can see, everything scrolls out because it's just inside the ion content. Let's start with the sticky row. Can we find our sticky row? And we will simply make this one sticky to the top. Really, it's that easy. Sticky row, and we're gonna add for the sticky row position sticky. Now, top is a bit complicated. I will just give it a 0 for now. We're gonna move it above the content, so we're gonna use a different index. We're gonna give it a background because otherwise, maybe we'll do one by one. Because otherwise we will actually see the content behind it. So now it's already sticky up there, but you see the content is behind it. That's of course not what we want. So we're gonna give it a background. I also thought that, so now we see it's quite nice. It's coming together. We also might want to have a little box shadow. And because actually the items are aligned pretty nicely, do we actually need flex in here? I thought we needed, but I feel like we don't really need it. So we will just comment this out for now. Now we also had our info row. That was the one above, so this one. For the info row, we will also use the background white, position sticky, and now I brought it in, I spoiled it. What we want to do is we want to use the save area top. I will set this to 0. That's a value that's showing or giving us the value of this space right here. So right now we have those two above each other, not really the best idea. So for the sticky row, we're gonna do the same. We're not using top 0, we will calculate it by using the inset top minus 30. Do you really want minus 30 and here minus 40? Let's check it out. Yeah, that's already pretty good. Actually, I don't know, I have a shadow right here. Can we see a preview on iOS somewhere? Yeah, that's a great size. Can we just get it a bit bigger, like really big? Okay, that's a bit better. Now we see the border and we see that this is sticky top, but those are not really the right places. So something is still wrong. And that is usually the ion content, because if we don't have a header area, we need to set our own padding for the top, or otherwise elements will be really hidden behind something. And now we see with a padding top set for ion content, it looks a lot better. Everything now scrolls out. Why are you sticky? Well, that's fine. We anyway gonna fade it out with a directive, and then we won't see it anymore. But that is already pretty close to what we wanted to accomplish with just some basic CSS. For the ion refresher, I think we also need to add, let's see it on the device. So the refresher, as you can see, is stuck up here, and therefore we're gonna add for the refresher also a bit more padding up there. If you wanna really keep an eye on the details, we could also change the icon color for the ion search bar to match our UI a bit better. And now we see we got a funny thing going on, but we will fix this with our directive. So we haven't really touched the directive. I think we need the height header directive in this case. Height header, there we go. So I've prepared just a few lines. I added the renderer and the DOM controller and one input. So we can feed in the template reference to our header element. And what we're gonna do is two things that we also did, I think, for the Twitter UI. First of all, we're gonna get our header height, because this is different for iOS and Android, and we want to make this as cross-platform as possible. And then we're gonna set our header to the actual element of the input. That makes accessing it in the end a bit easier. And we also get a reference to the children of the header, because we want to fade out the children of the header. So this, and this, but not the header itself. The header should stay wide as it is. And now we will use something we once again used already in the past, and that is a host listener. The host listener for Ion Scroll will get all the Ion Scroll events if you set scroll events to true, and then we connect everything to our app height header, and we pass in the template reference to height header. I guess that was too fast. So we've defined an input on app height header right here. We gave it the same name. That makes it easy to set the value just like this. And we passed in the template reference to our row, which means our directive can now get all the scroll events because we've set them to true, and then change the appearance, position, opacity, whatever of our header. And we're going to do this with a little calculation, and we bring this in. So first of all, we can grab the scroll top. That's really, I feel like we do this all the time when we use a custom directive for the header. Then we use the new position. If the new position is already below the negative value of the header height, we're just going to use this because we want to make it stick at some point. And at the same time, we also calculate the new opacity. Basically, it's either completely visible or then fades a bit when new position gets bigger. No, when the header height gets bigger. No, when new position gets bigger, I think. Okay, and finally, we're going to set all of these updates with the DOM controller to our DOM. We're going to set the style for the header, which is the whole object, and we're going to move the position so the header will move up. At the same time, we will set a new style for the children, which is just setting the opacity. So while the header moves up, all the children also fade a bit out. Let's see this in action. I hope this works now. Okay, we see it's moving up, and it's also at the same time fading out, and we're just left with this. And because it's still in place and not completely hidden, we can't see the other cards behind it. And once we scroll back to the top, it also comes back to us. Now we just need this little line. So that was this little London line in the original application. So it's London up here, and then you got this. And I really wanted to replicate this, but it turns out I would have to add another directive at that point, and I really didn't want to do this. So I came up with a little, I wouldn't say hack, but it was a quite easy fix. So where's my search bar? There's the search bar. Above the search bar, we're just gonna add a little Ion text, color medium, a bit of padding, and then we're gonna use a conditional class. We will use the location visible if show location detail is true, or we will use location hidden if it's not true. Let's set it to false in the beginning because it should only be visible once we scroll up. So show location detail false. For the CSS classes, we're gonna add two more. We're gonna use either opacity 1 when it's visible or opacity 0 when it's hidden. And then we also gonna listen to the scroll events of Ion Scroll. I will bring this in, and I think, oh damn, I think I removed that line from my original code. Now I have to come up with the solution again. So we're gonna use Ion Scroll on our Ion content up here. We've already set scroll events to true, so that should work nice. We're gonna implement the onScroll function in here. And onScroll, what is like event const offset equals event detail. Maybe is it offset, something like offset? I don't know, I have to log it. Let's quickly do this. Let's see. So whenever I scroll, I will just check against this value. We could use scroll top. I think we could just use scroll top. If scroll top is above, let's say 40, perhaps then we want to fade it in. So we're gonna set really ugly this show location detail equals offset greater than maybe 50, not 40. And this means it becomes true at some point, and then the class is added to the object, which means the transition happens and it's visible. Oh, damn, it's of course not visible. What did I do wrong? Offset detail dot top. Come on. Now I'm really messing up everything. It was such a nice code before. Damn. Offset top, something like this, or scroll top. It should be something like this. I really forgot what the log was about. Let's see. Okay, now it seems to work. And let's look at it on a device that usually looks a bit better. So I go up and London comes in, and I go down, and at some point London moves away. Now we could improve this because it's actually still taking some space right here. But you could do this with a custom directive and change the height. Really, that's what I wanted to not do. I think for now, this solution also works pretty good. Okay, and now we're actually already completely finished with the first page. I think this is kind of nice. It works pretty good. We got everything in here. We got this header area. We got the refresher. We can now use a custom refresher icon. And then we are ready to dive into the details view. The basic details page is actually pretty boring, but we're gonna do this together. So let's get rid of our home page. We're completely done with that part, and we can go to the details page and open all the relevant files. In here, I also left the call to the HTML file, to the JSON file. Oh damn, this video is really too long. And we're gonna lock this, so we're gonna see what's going on. First of all, we're gonna build really just the basic UI. For the header part, it's really not very special. I just used the toolbar buttons for the start with a router link, not a back button, just the default button, because that makes styling it a bit easier. For the title, the data from our JSON, and then another buttons array towards the end. Is my phone still connected now? Of course not, so we're gonna reconnect it as well. There's something cool with Ionic that we can use, and that is, yeah, thanks. And that is adding another header in here. On iOS, this gives the cool impression while you scroll, you all first have this bigger header. Can we already see this in action? Maybe we can. Yeah, we can't scroll. So we have this big header right here, and once we scroll, it moves into the top bar automatically, just by using collapse condense in here. That's really super cool, and we're gonna see this in action very soon. To make it work, we will also add an image here. We will use the image for the restaurant actually as the background image, and we can do this in here. Usually in CSS, it's really hard to access the values from like a JSON response. So we're gonna just set style background image to the URL of data.image. If we inspect the console output, we see that here is our image. And if we don't set any CSS class for something like this, this is what happens. You don't see anything. So always make sure if you're setting something as a background image, you have to define a height, the background size, position, and all of that. I also added the will change in here. I don't know, for the last time, whenever I wanted to implement something like a parallax scrolling, I used will change. I think it optimizes something under the hood for those images to make the animation a bit better. Now we still can't scroll yet, but we will get to that in a second. Why do we, I think we need to make our toolbar transparent? No, I don't think so. Let's just try and add a bit more data. Actually, most of the data that we're now gonna present is really boring. And since we're already above half an hour, I'm just gonna edit. Really, once again, the node, link below the video. It's a row with a lot of information. So we got a column for the data rating. The only really interesting part might be this. So after the ratings, there's an array of text within the data. If you check the data out, you see that here is an array of text. If you don't want to display everything, you can use the slice pipe, and then it looks just like this. So Italian and pizza is what we see. Then we got the location, the distance. We got a little price tag for some specials up there. Then we got the about part right here. We could also use something like a button to open or expand this section, but really it was a bit too boring actually. And then towards the end, another row with this restaurant information and then another information right here. You can see that most of the columns have light BG because I actually wanted to have a different background color. So for the Ion content, I wanted to have a background that's slightly gray. And we're also going to use position absolute, which will move our image to the top because we don't want to have this white border. We really want that the content starts right up there. If we right now, what is actually the application and what isn't? So on a device, it looks like this right now. And if we change the position of Ion content to absolute and change the padding, it looks like this. And now we can also see what's happening. No, we can't. Can we? No, we can't. We need more content, but we will get to this. For the Ion toolbar, I also wanted to make those icons a bit smaller. No problem. If you add numbers from 2 to 30, it will automatically work. No, you can target the font size actually directly like this, perhaps even a bit smaller. Does it actually change? Is it becoming smaller? I don't know. Are my eyes that bad? Yeah, they are. Okay, it's really becoming small. Let's use something like 22 or looks fine so far. And then for the light background, we're gonna change it to be completely white. And I don't think we need this. It looks interesting. Maybe we will get back to this later. As always, I don't know why my broadcasting isn't showing this, but we can usually also see it in here. So we have this gray background and those sections now already have a white background. That is the very basic for our details page. Now things are getting a bit more challenging. Maybe we're gonna wrap up our parallax image, although we don't really have a lot of content. I'm just gonna replicate this or this. I'm just gonna put a lot of these in here. So then we can actually see our scrolling in action and try out the parallax. What's happening now is, as you can see, it changes from being this bold header here to appearing in the status bar and having also a white status bar. That's automatically happening if you put a header towards the top and another header inside your Ion content. It's also the default if you generate new Ionic pages or a blank new Ionic application. There's also this behavior automatically implemented, so we actually don't need yet another directive. The only directive that we need is the parallax directive. Usually it works mostly like the other directive that we had before. So for Ion content, we're gonna change this. We don't need the scroll event in here yet, but we need the app Parallax directive, and we're gonna feed in the template reference to our image. Really, what we wanna do is we wanna listen to the scroll event, and whenever it moves, I will really bring it in, because we had already a few tutorials on where we use the Parallax directive. It's basically listening to the scroll event. If we scroll, if the scroll top is bigger than 0, we want to keep the scale image 1. If it's below 0, which means we're pulling it in this direction, we're gonna scale the image. We're gonna make it actually bigger, and otherwise we're gonna move it out slowly. So that's really the whole idea here. It's a simple calculation between those two values. You can play around with these values as well. And then in the end, we're just gonna change our image element. We're gonna call translate 3D to move it along the y-axis, and then also to scale it in the end. And that's really everything to make this parallax work up here. So with that in place, it already looks pretty cool. We got the parallax, we got the changing header. It works automatically without doing a lot from our side, so that's actually really cool. And now we get to what was maybe the hardest part about this whole application, and that was once you reach a certain threshold on the page, you see at the top these slides here that I can change, and I can go to something, and then I can scroll and scroll, and suddenly I'm in the next section, and in the next section everything changes automatically, and if I go back to the top, it also disappears again. So this is the official application, and this is our application. It's quite same actually. It's not bad. To do this, we're gonna have to do a few things. Number one, we're gonna add a few slides, and we also add, maybe we should start with that. We also add and remove everything that we had. We're gonna add an Ion list. In fact, we're gonna add multiple Ion lists. So if we check out data.food, that was the data.food. We see that we got 4 categories: meal yields, pasta, pizza, salad, whatever. I really just came up with this dummy data. And every category then has a few meals. So we're gonna create a list for each of those categories. Each category will have the header and then Ion rows for every meal inside. They are just meal name, info, the price, and towards the end, once again, using the image as the background. So we're definitely gonna need the meal row and meal image, and also border bottom. So let's go to our CSS. Meal row actually needs no padding, and meal image has a little border radius around it. Also, because we haven't used Ion items in here, we're gonna add this class for the border bottom. It uses actually a step color. That's what I usually found whenever there was a slight border somewhere on the page with this color. I don't know where I found this, but that usually looked exactly like the separators you also saw on Ion item. And now those also are separated. If you check out the original application, where's the original application? I don't know. Yeah, you won't see it, right? Yeah, you can't see it. The header sections, so meal deals, pasta, are actually in a different background color. They use the color of the page, which gives a little difference between the different categories here. And to achieve the same, we're gonna set the Ion list header to a specific background and the Ion list background color to white. And that gives exactly what we want. Now we have that header with the background color. It would be nice if this could just use transparent, but then the list would be in the way, and then we would have to give every Ion row a white background color. So just like this, I think it's fine. All right, that is the first part. Now the more challenging part comes, and that is our Ion Slides. So this component where you can click on, which moves automatically, is or could be an Ion Slides component. Of course, it might need some options. We will also only display it if data is set, otherwise really nothing inside our application works. And then Ion Slide ng4 let entry of data.food, and we need some access to each of those slides in the end, or actually pretty soon. So we also gonna keep track of the index. Into every slide we're gonna put an Ion button. On click we want to do something. I actually don't know what we want to do, and we want to put in the entry.category. On click, what we're going to do is, we're going to of course select a specific category by the index. We will see, figure out how this works from code, because we actually need a bit of JavaScript for this functionality. But let's first see this in action. So we got them here. That looks pretty much horrible, but that's just a start. Really just getting started here. We will use fill clear because in the original version, the Ion Slides had a white background, and they had also, I can't separate between my and their version. So they had a white background here and use the primary color, or if they're selected, they use primary for the background and white for the font. We will achieve that in a second. So what we see, we definitely need more of the slides in one slide. Therefore, we, as always, need some options. And we're gonna just set them to options. So let's go back to the details page and define a few options. We definitely want to have multiple on one slide. We want to have free mode for those, and we want to have a bit of offset before and after so we can reach all of them. So now they're visible here and we can scroll nicely through them. Now, it's still a long way. We need to make sure that they are actually not in here, but they are sticky to the top. And we could use the position sticky once again, but I felt like I actually don't know exactly why, but it didn't work super well. The other idea, or the other thing you can try if you want to make something sticky, is to use the slot fixed. That's actually something from Ionic. It's not something I came up with. There's always a slot fixed inside Ion content, and you can put something into it and it will be fixed at some place. I actually don't know. Yeah, it's now fixed at the top. So that means we still need a bit of styling for them, but it's already fixed. Now we need to do multiple things now at once. Maybe let's try and style our Ion Slides a bit. What we're gonna do is we're gonna first of all make them stand out a bit different. We're gonna give them a white background, a bit of padding, and make our Ion button a bit smaller. So we got this little row here, which now completely doesn't work as it's in the wrong position. So that means we need something like top, perhaps 50 or something like this. That should already look better. Yeah. 50 almost works. On iOS, I think it's 46 pixels. Then it would be completely nice with the header bar. There we go. Actually, even less. I think 44. Yeah, I don't know. It's 44. So we're gonna position it here, but we want to make it flexible. And this depends on the platform. So that means we need a way to set this from the details page and check out the height of the platform. And we can get the height of the platform by using the isPlatform functionality. If the platform is iOS, we're going to use 44, otherwise we're going to use 56 for Android. isPlatform can simply be imported from Ionic Angular standard import. And what we're going to do next is we're going to inject, I'm going to copy that syntax because there's so much in it, a reference to the document. It's really everything's standard. As you can see, everything's coming from Angular core, document, private document, and then we can change our document. You can usually use this to add elements to your DOM or change the styling, or in our case, set for the document element a style, set property. And what we're going to set is a custom CSS variable. So you could name this Simon your variable if you want to. If you want to give it something better, you could call it header position, but I would feel honored if you use Simon, of course. And now the interesting part is the value for this. And once again, we can use a little calculation, and that is to calculate the save area inside top that we've used before, plus the actual header height. Remember, we want to position it here. So we're gonna skip the top area, we add the height of the status bar, and then it should hopefully be in the right place. All right. Now we've written this header position to our document, and that means we can just use it here instead of the fixed value. And then we have set the value from code, and hopefully this works, exactly in the right place with dynamic value. I know it's in the wrong place, it's visible right now, but that's a different story. While we scroll, it is definitely now in the right place and we can use it like we want. So that is really a nice way of setting your values or checking on which platform you run, and then setting this value or this CSS variable. Okay, great. Now we also want to completely hide it. So we're going to set the opacity to 0. We want to fade this bar in, and we're going to use the same, basically the same trick like we used before. We're going to define two classes, slides visible or slides hidden, and we're going to use these classes on our slide. So let me bring in a little snippet, which we're going to put right here on our Ion slide. ng class slides visible when category slides is visible, or otherwise when not category slides visible, it will be hidden. So we just need to define this value now and set it to false in the beginning. And then at some point we have to change it back to true. The question is, at which point are we going to do this? I would say we're going to do this inside a little on scroll, because we're going to listen to the scroll event once again, and we're going to change it based on the scroll top offset. So if it's above 500, we're going to toggle it, and then we will show this. This should work pretty nice. And by now you should know how you get the scroll events. So somewhere is our Ion content, scroll events true, Ion scroll, and then we call the function on scroll with the event value. Let's check it out. Hopefully it's now not visible, opacity 0. And at some point we reach the offset 500, about here. And then, hello. Oh, damn. I somewhere made a mistake along the way. Damn, and that's not really bad because I don't know where I messed up. Most likely within the CSS, but not 100% sure. So we got opacity 0, we got the slides, slides visible. That's a bad timing for my first typo of the day. And it will be really hard to find. Is something wrong with on scroll? Let's see. Let's put a little lock here to our offset and check if that's actually happening. So offset definitely works, and 500 should be, oh, actually it works here. And it didn't work on the other page. Maybe I set it to the wrong place. Where's our dynamic styling? On the Ion slides, I guess I guess the whole ng class syntax belongs to the Ion Slides object, not the Ion Slide. Please let it be this. And make opacity, I'm going to change the opacity back to 0, and then it hopefully works as expected. So let's scroll, and then it comes and then it fades. Okay, that looks good. Let's see it on a device. And there is our slides. Nice. Coming in exactly at the right time. With a little transition, really feels exactly like it should look like. And now you see everything's coming together. In the end, it's just one animation, one parallax, one shifting header. But at some point, the page becomes really dynamic with all these interactions that going on or take place on this page. If it looks buggy on my device, it's actually completely smooth. So the last part now is to allow clicking on them and also automatically activating the right section. And that will be, that's gonna be interesting. Maybe we start with selecting categories. No, actually, I think we need to take a little step back first of all. Because we need to think about this. If you click on it, you want to select an element. Maybe we're gonna take a look at it here. So that means you need access to all these lists here. We want to have access to all these lists so we can say, okay, scroll that list into view. And if you need access to multiple elements within your view, usually what you need is to access the view children. A view child is just one element. View children means we now get all Ion lists on our view as a query list. And because that list is actually not too good to work with, we also gonna use another array to keep track of the actual elements. Initially, we will also set our active category to 0, and then we can also define a little custom UI for the active category in a second. Yeah, that's it. Maybe we're gonna do this because that's actually easy. I'm working from the easy part that we can do towards the more complicated things. So making the category active should be pretty easy. We're just gonna set the Ion button class active category if the active category is equal to the current index of the iteration. That was the whole reason we used the index, and so we can call select category with the index. But I hope that makes sense for you. Just give it a quick thought why we're using it like this. That means one button will have the active category class, and the active category class now simply defines a different UI for that button with the different background color, border radius, and font weight. So that means right now the first category should be active just like this, and we now just need a way to also activate the others and scroll to them. But so far that looks already quite nice. Okay, back to our query list and what we want to do. Now, getting all the elements from the query list isn't too easy, and usually you could just do something like this.lists. I think this.lists, please, to array, and then you would get the array. The problem is this doesn't work in the beginning. And therefore, you first of all need to listen to the changes, because otherwise it would really be boring if you just get the array of view children. Come on. So we're gonna subscribe. We don't really need the result anyway. And now we can do what we wanted to do the whole time. We're gonna set the list elements to this.lists. Sorry, new keyboard, still new to this. And there we go. And then we have this.list elements containing all our lists, or actually a reference to all of our lists. We should now see it. There we go, 4 element references. And that will make our life a lot easier. Because now, if we want to select a category, we can simply grab the right child from our list elements and get the native element. And then we can scroll our content to that child. You can do this with standard JavaScript function, or you could also do it the Ionic way, which would be like this. accessing your Ion content as a view child, and then calling this.content scroll to point. I think not really interested in the first value. Second value is child.offset top. And we're gonna do this in 1 second. The duration is actually in milliseconds, so don't try something like 1, 2, 3. That won't work. All right, let's see. Actually, if I click on pasta, it scrolls a bit too far. So in my first example, I simply reduced the offset top by 120. That worked a bit better. So then it brings pasta into the view. Pizza also, salad is already quite visible. And if I'm somewhere down here and go back to meal deals, it also scrolls them into view. That works good. Now the only thing that's left is checking while we scroll if something is inside our view. And for this, we're gonna iterate all of our items in the onScroll. This could be potentially a problem for the performance, since onScroll is really triggered a lot of time, and if you have many list elements or many view children and go through them and perform some kind of heavy operation, that might take a bit of time, so be careful with what we do next. There was a helper function on Stack Overflow that used the get bounding client rec to check if an element is currently in the viewport. I just copied it and removed the start and end because I really don't care about that index. But what we can do now is whenever we scroll, we grab each element. So one by one, we go through all the elements in our list elements and we check if this dot is element in viewport item. In that case, we're gonna set our active category to the current index of the iteration. We break because we don't really want to set anything else to active, and at the same time we can also call the slides, so we can inject the slides as well. Just like we access the Ion content, we can access our Ion slides. We only have 1 Ion slides on that page, so that should work. Yeah, thanks. This code completion is sometimes really a nice joke. This dot slides go to or slide to, and then the index, once again this, and the speed. Is there a default for the speed? I actually don't know. Let's try this again and let's hope it's also in milliseconds. And let's see if this already works. I actually don't know if we missed something at this point. I'm a bit lost. So we're on meal deals, and at some point we activate pasta and we activate pizza, and we can't go further to salad because it doesn't work, but we can go back to pasta and back to meal deals, and it works. Let me quickly check if I missed something within the view, but I feel like if it's working, I don't think we have forgotten anything. We have the active category. We're making it dependent on the slides visible. So if we check it finally out on our device, we see that my device is in the right time, not connected again. So there we go. Here's the final preview of the application. We can scroll it up with our nice effect. We can scroll through the list and it will automatically change. Quite nice. We can also manually change it to switch somewhere. And we can also go to, no, we can't go to salad because it's right here down the list. It's not 100% perfect. The whole logic that we've implemented, especially onScroll, is also triggered when we click on something here. So that makes life a bit harder. But overall, we are kind of subscribed and can dynamically display them within a fixed slot. We have this nice header which automatically moves into the status bar. We have the Parallax header up here, and we also got our initial page with the first animation where we moved out the header and faded in something and made it sticky in the first place. Alright, and that's it finally for today. I think this was the longest video I ever had on this channel. Thanks if you followed through. I hope you enjoyed all the little wisdoms and things we have covered in this video. The result application looks really great. I think the details page is really awesome. There are a lot of different things going on in that page, like the changing header, which moves to the status bar, the parallax image, the fixed slide, which become visible at some point, the automatically changing slides. Really, I highly enjoyed creating it, although it took me really very long. If you want to see more of the Build with Ionic series, let me know in the comments, and also subscribe to the channel and like the video if you want to see more about Ionic. If you're not yet a member of the Ionic Academy, of course, make sure you check it out after the video so you can build even more and even better Ionic applications faster in the future. I've been Simon, this has been our Build with Ionic tutorial about the food ordering application, and I will hopefully catch you next week like always. So happy coding, Simon.